Representative Perry, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being here. You may be well aware at this point that there's a communist flotilla heading from the United States to deliver aid to Cuba's communist regime. A coalition of anti-American organizations across America is collecting monetary support and material aid to offset the blockade of the island and demonstrate that the people of Cuba are not alone in communism. Unfortunately, it lives well in the United States of America. A non-exhaustive list of this coalition includes Progressive International, the People's Forum, Code Pink, with well-known documented ties to the Chinese Communist Party, the Palestinian Youth Movement, and the Sunrise Movement. What do you know about the planning, organization, funding, and intended execution of this flotilla, including any potential violations of U.S. law restricting aid, travel, and transactions with Cuba or in general?
Thank you very much, Congressman. So fighting communism in the Western Hemisphere is a key focus of our administration, and it's a great privilege to be part of a State Department that fights communism. I am not crisp on the granular tactical details of that flotilla, but obviously we have an embargo against Cuba and there are various sanctions in place, and I'm confident that even though I don't oversee these organs of the administration, the relevant ones will pursue all necessary recourse. Now, as to public diplomacy vis-a-vis Cuba, I can tell you that in Cuba, like other closed societies and like other antagonists in our Western Hemisphere, we're very interested in promoting internet freedom and other causes that might help the Cuban people prevail over their horrible regime.
So we hope they prevail too, but in the case that they don't, we have to safeguard the United States from these incursions from China, Russia, Cuba itself, communists in general, and I don't have the same level of confidence that other organizations within the administration are going to take this, take the appropriate action. So I would hope that the State Department would encourage in writing the appropriate agencies, most notably the Department of Justice, to investigate and take appropriate actions if United States law is being violated. And so I'm asking you to do that. Let's not just assume and hope that they're going to do that, and I appreciate that. So under the category of wasteful programs, in a recent interview, you said AI with a Western soul is a top priority for our entire administration and should be a top priority for anyone who cares about freedom. And I generally agree with you, but I'm just going to underscore under the Biden administration, the State Department greenlit $25,000 on transgender, on a transgender opera in Colombia, $20,000 on drag shows in Ecuador, $30,000 to make an LGBTQ comic book in Peru that the chairman referenced, $37,000 to study the relationship between collective movement, meaning walking, boxing, and dancing, and systemic conditions of anti-trans violence, $72,000 on a student to travel around I guess Czechoslovakia and Slovakia on a project about queering the map. Look, I've got a whole list of this stuff. And I know the gentleman just asked you about a bunch of these programs, and you said it helps out. And I'm sure it does help out in fostering relationships. These countries have their own societies and their own culture, and they don't need America's left-wing communist operation using taxpayer dollars to be imposed upon them. And so for the sake of the gentleman who asked you what the status was and asked for a report back, I'm going to say we don't want to fund these things. This committee has taken action during this session to make sure these things aren't funded, and we don't want them funded. And we're $38 trillion plus in debt. American taxpayers work hard for the money that they earn. They don't want it sent to these things. We know we need to have diplomacy, relationships, and so on and so forth, but we don't have to be working to make sure every country is focused on LGBTQ as much as we are. If they want to do that on their own, God bless them. But we got other priorities, and so I want to highlight that. There's another side of this conversation and this equation here, and I just want to make sure you hear it, because that's not the only voice in the room, and I know you know that, but it's outrageous. It is outrageous to fund $70,000 on DEI, on a DEI musical in Ireland. I'm sure Ireland can figure out how much DEI they want, and they don't need America forcing that down their throats so that we can be friends. And so, again, I would encourage proactive action regarding the DOJ on this flotilla. Let's just not hope that they're going to, and I will ask the DOJ when they're in front of me what they're doing. But I'm asking you as the State Department, the one in charge of international relations and foreign affairs, to be proactive on that issue. People need to know there are consequences for aiding and abetting the enemy. Thank you, I yield.
Thank you.